Okay.
Shall we go in now?
Yeah, sure. Sorry.
So there's lots of other collections here. There's some of our Pacific Island material and some of the natural history collections too.
Oh, wow.
So if we wander up here...
Oh, I'm so nervous.
I mean, if you lift, you can see her face.
Yeah, just so I can see her. Oh, my goodness. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. That's amazing. Oh, yeah. Yep. This looks exactly like Nanny. I can see so many people in her. Not a lot of people would have this same thing that I'm experiencing now. Just to see this, you know. She's looking at me. Yeah, it's great. It's fantastic. Hello, Nanny. I'm your great-granddaughter. This is a picture of Nanny Kempsey. Nanny Kempsey is my grandmother. This is Nanny Nellie. Nanny Nellie is Nanny Kempsey's mum. This is me and my mum, Nanny Elva, and Nanny Irene. That's we're all nannies now. I love that. So yeah, 4 generations. I lived with my grandmother for many, many years, Nanny Kempsey. And I have a letter here that she wrote to the museum about her mother on exhibition. This is the photo of all the statues together. So there were 2 other statues with Nanny Nellie. They had no names attached to them when they were put on exhibition. And at that time in their lives, that era in their lives, you know, in the 1920s, they were all walking around with clothes on. If this wasn't them then, it'd be interesting to see what sort of setting they were put in. So together, how they were standing around each other. These look like all different photographs taken and then put together. I haven't seen how they were put on exhibition, where they were placed at all. So, I mean, that'd be very interesting to find out. In 1996, my grandmother, Nanny Kempsey, visited the Australian Museum with her cousin. They were walking through the museum, looking at the animals on display, when she noticed something ahead of her. It was the statues. As she got closer, she broke down in tears. Her cousin was confused. She asked, "What's wrong?" Nanny Kempsey said, "That's my mother." It was the first time Nanny Kempsey had seen her mother, Nanny Nellie, in 62 years since her passing. Can you imagine coming across your mother in a museum half naked for the first time in 62 years? The museum realised the trauma it had caused and took the statues down.
How are you, Auntie?
Laura.
Welcome to the Australian Museum.
Thank you so much.
We'll have a walk around and start to talk about Nanny Nellie. So this is the gallery that the statues were on display. And there would have been large cabinetry and cases in between these poles and all along the walls. But I do have a picture here of what they looked like in the case.
Oh my goodness. God. God. Oh yeah, that's not good. Just on display, like all the rest of the things in here that are, I guess that's what they wanted, wasn't it? Well, then this would have been the way that Nanny Kempsey would have seen her mum. She would have come in here and seen her for the first time in so many years, and this is how she saw her. That's very sad. This is a real shock. My great-granny never had hair like that.
That's right. So in looking at that, with her straight hair and matted hair,
Yeah.
the colour of the hair,
Yeah.
but everything about them was posed. Scientists collected to their theories, and this is another example of that, by which they make people display in what they perceive to be the native savage.
And that everybody would have thought that they were like that. I mean, back then, you show something to somebody and think, oh, that's what Aboriginal people look like. They still do that today.
One of the things that a lot of people don't realise is that Aboriginal, Torres Strait Islander and Pacifica peoples actually exist in natural history museums because originally we are animal collections.
I can see why Nanny Kempsey had her mother's statue taken down. She must have been overwhelmed to see her like that, displayed in a glass cabinet like all the rest of the animals in this museum. But after talking to her family and giving it some thought, my grandmother requested that Nanny Nellie's statue be restored and put back on display, respectfully, for the whole world to see. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm honouring Nanny Kempsey's request. So I was going to ask you, would the museum allow the statues to go on exhibition here at the museum?
Well, we can decide that together, and I think the futures of the statues should be a joint decision. Where can the statues go on display? Will they have conditions good enough to go back on display? And then how do we celebrate the statues? Now we've rediscovered the statues in our collection. We've connected with you, one family, and once we connect with the other families, so now is the time for them to come back out where the families can reconnect and make decisions about their future.
Look, I'll be looking forward to that. From what I understand, the statues were made and displayed for scientific reasons. Nameless objects to be studied by future generations. But Nanny Nellie wasn't an object. She was a human being and should be respected as such. For too long, our history has been told by colonisers. I want to honour her life by reclaiming our history. And that history starts here in Bombala. Nellie Bunjil was born in Bombala, a little town in southern New South Wales, Narragansett country. She lived here until she was 16. Her grandmother died when she was 5, and her mother died when she was 10. We know she worked here, washing linen. She would have grown up quick, just like I had to. Nanny Nellie wouldn't have been allowed to get an education. She would have been told that she was different. The colour of her skin would have been pointed out to her at a younger age, just like it was for all Aboriginal people. But she would have walked this country, her country, and she would have known all its stories. This is Delicate Aboriginal Reserve, where Nanny Nellie would have lived with her grandparents when she was little. Before it was an Aboriginal reserve, it was a meeting place for surrounding countries for thousands of years. Here we are. This is the Delegate Aboriginal Reserve. Also known as the Common, was formally gazetted in 1892. Many descendants have strong family connections to the land at the Common. That's true. This was a camp stop for multiple clans. And I was told that the Wiradjuri people used to come down here to get wives because the women were prettier. I don't know if you're going to put that in, but that's what I was told. Which is a great story, I reckon, from my ancestors. Here, Nanny Nellie would have been allowed to speak her language, practice her culture, and be with her people. Before it was a reserve, this was a place with no fences, a place where culture and knowledge was learned and shared, a place where she could be herself. Aboriginal people were allowed to come and go, free to come and go as they pleased. Later on, that all changed. When the settlers came, they would have moved them further out of town, up to here. Things changed. They were changed for the worse. Do not leave the reserve, here's the certificate. You could be arrested, don't speak your own language, no dancing in public, you may be served in a shop if we choose to serve you in a shop. You know, you weren't allowed in any pubs at all. They would have to report there was somebody here watching them all the time. This is Bombala Cemetery. This is where Great Uncle Fred is buried. But there's no marking on Uncle Frederick's grave. Aboriginal graves never got marked. There was no money for Aboriginal people to mark graves with, you know, like these ones here that have tombstones. So we don't know where he is. Nanny Nellie's and Uncle Frederick's mother and father could be buried here, but everything's unmarked. This is where everything got lost. We lost our connection to our language, our culture. We lost our connection to our way of life. We lost them because Nanny Nellie moved from here. From then on, it was forbidden to speak her own language. And this is where everything got lost for me, for us, our family. We lost our tradition here, in this place. So yeah. When the statues were made in 1925, Sydney was already a city. There were around 1 million people living here. The Sydney Harbour Bridge was being built. Around this time, the first trans-Pacific flight was made from the United States to Sydney. Nanny Nellie would have never seen anything like this before. She would have been overwhelmed by all the people, by everything. In 1925, the Australian Museum, the oldest in Australia, was almost 100 years old. Philanthropist and supporter of the arts, Ernst Wunderling commissioned the 3 statues to be made for the Australian Museum's collection. Hi, how are you?
Hi. Welcome to the Research Library and Archive.
Thank you so much.
So I just want to take you through with the material that we have set aside for you to look at this afternoon.
Okie dokie.
So what we've got here today is the collection of the original documents from the Australian Museum archives, but it gives us a lot of insight into the way people were thinking in a particular time, and particularly about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples.
So the language in there is not desirable.
Yeah, so I just wanted to give you a little bit of a warning about that too. Through the generosity of Mr Ernest Wunderlich, trustee, the Australian Museum will shortly be able to place on view a fine Aboriginal group consisting of a man, Jimmy Clements, native of Orange District, New South Wales, boy, 9 years, Harold Harry Marsh, native of Grafton. Now, Friday, December the 5th, 1924, stated that a census of Aborigines made up as follows: full-bloods, half-castes, quadroons and octoroons.
Octoroons. And of course they had that photograph back then, you know, with the different colours of Aboriginal people.
A really famous one.
Yes, yeah.
So this is really quite shocking to read, but at the time this was practice, and it gives really interesting insight into the rationale for why this project was commissioned, because there's this belief that the Aboriginal race was a dying race.
So because of their assimilation policies, they thought they needed to preserve the way we looked?
That's it, and I mean...
It's mind-boggling, isn't it? I mean...
Yes. We just got a note here.
Okay.
This is a key document.
Okay.
It's interesting. The museum was suggesting that the Secretary of the Aborigines Protection Board be asked to take the necessary steps to detain, actually using the words detain the Aboriginal Jimmy Clements. Take him into custody. I mean, how is it any different from basically arresting him?
That's right.
That had no agency or free will of their own.
Yeah, absolutely. Picked up anywhere.
Picked up anywhere and monitored. The fact that
because
the
colour of their skin.
That's right, because they were seen as desirable examples of what Aborigines
look like.
You know, someone like me, I'm Aboriginal, but, you know, I wouldn't pass that test. It's unbelievable how much control police had.
And they worked in with the Aboriginal Protection Board, they worked in with the
all
museum.
These government agencies.
And all that's exactly right. You know, Mariko, they thought we were primitive, lesser humans than them. We weren't civilised enough by their standard to be treated equally.
Museums, even today, they're still seen as sources of authority and objective knowledge. And this is why museums are really powerful and can be quite dangerous places, because they have that power to spread a particular truth, and then people would accept it because it's a museum. Why would museums lie to us?
Right, that's exactly true.
And this is where, you know, theories about scientific racism, this is how it gets perpetuated, because places like museums legitimise these theories, because you'll have researchers writing papers, and so they base on an idea of, like, you know, Aboriginal people, they have, you know, brain size that's inferior to non-Indigenous peoples, and then someone just has to write a paper about it. Australian Museum is referenced in some way, and then there you go, that's a legitimate theory and it's truth. The Australian Aboriginal, and lowercase for Aboriginal, is said to be the most primitive type of Homo sapiens surviving on the face of the earth. And it's a legacy now that we're still undoing as Aboriginal people, where often we get presented with these outdated and offensive stereotypes.
Nanny Nellie was used because of the way she looked, taken against her will and made to pose naked so that Aboriginal people were portrayed as being primitive. Imagine if the statues in Hyde Park were naked and portrayed as being uncivilised. They would be taken down. The narrative that these people were noble and that we were primitive justified the dispossession of land, the raping and murder, and forced removal of children. This narrative still justifies the racism that exists in Australia today. And the museum was supporting that narrative, just like the majority of museums around the world were. Well, it says, discovered this territory, 1770. That's a huge statement. It's there, bold, on the statue here, from their perspective. He discovered it from their perspective. But from our perspective, as an Aboriginal person, he came here and discovered the owners of the land here. Well, I think there, blatant lies. And then we keep on feeding that. When you feed it, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And people believe in it because of that. And then they don't know the real truth. Wanting to change the narrative of the statues, the museum have agreed to put the statues back on display. Now I want to reunite the other statues with their families. Some of these statues have been damaged, but the museum have agreed to restore them. Uncle Jimmy's statue has been damaged the most. Uncle Jimmy is very important to our history, all of our history. In 1927, he and John Noble protested at the opening of the Old Parliament House in Canberra for the sovereign rights of all Aboriginal people. One of our first acts of activism. Apparently, they were not allowed in because of the way that they were dressed, but attendees rebelled against security and they were allowed to stay. Later, Uncle Jimmy also met with the future king, the Duke of York. People of the time even requested a statue be made of him to honour his protest. Sadly, he died a couple of months after this event. Notice how he has an Australian flag in his hand. They must have given that to him. Another example of how they try to control the narrative of our history.
Welcome to one of the sites where the Australian Museum has workrooms. And of course, this is where your ancestors' sculpture is ensconced through here.
Wow. Be great to see her again. Oh, hello.
Yeah.
Oh, hello. There she is. Oh, yeah. Hello. It's been a while, hasn't it? I love the way she looks at me. I really love she looks at me. It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. It's lovely to see you again. I missed you. We look alike. I think we look alike. You know, so yeah.
So we've got a loose fragment of the plaster here.
This is from Nanny.
Yeah, so this is from her ankle.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's why she's still in the stillage. So,
Right.
and that's the work that we all do to make her stable again.
Oh yes, now I can see from the back. I never realised, just seeing from the front, never realised how much damage there was from the back. Yeah. Around the age of 17, Nanny Nellie left Bombala and travelled more than 500 kilometres to Warangesda Aboriginal Mission. She would have gone there because she had no immediate family and the mission had a good reputation. Reverend John Gribble, who established the mission, grew up with the Wiradjuri people and was known to be fair. Nanny Nellie came out here to this place where she thought she was going to be safe. This idea of somewhere being safe to live amongst our own people would have been some sort of light. So when my grandmother first arrived here, when she was around about 17 or so, she would have been told to come over here and stay in this girls' dormitory.
In the girls' dormitory, yep. This is where she would have been sent to. So she would have had a room, sharing a room in here with a few of the other girls.
And then she met her husband, her first husband here. So that would have changed dramatically for her. They probably would have got a little house, I suppose.
Well, they said the family huts are over there, so perhaps they did have a little place of their own out here or shared a house with other families,
Yeah. She wasn't alone. She was with family. And then, like, integrated family as well.
Yeah.
But in 1894, Reverend Gribble left Warangesda to establish a mission in Queensland. The Aborigines Protection Board took over, and from that point onwards, the nightmare stories began.
I've heard people have good sides to it.
Right.
Like when Grimble first established it because he wanted to help the Indigenous people
Yeah,
and get them
yeah.
in, so. But then I've heard some pretty, you know, horror stories about the place, that how they were treated and weren't treated real good and punished and whatnot, so.
Yeah.
Like
I've been
said,
reading about that too, how they were punished. Strapped, that's what it says.
dragged behind the cart back into the mission and whatnot, so yeah, there is a lot of bad stories. Like where they done a mass genocide out that way too. Yeah, poison water hole down from here.
Yeah.
Went and put all poison into the water and they drank it and lost hundreds of lives.
The Aborigines Protection Board was established to control and supervise the lives of Aboriginal people. Its aim was to assimilate Aboriginal people into mainstream Australian society. The Aborigines Protection Board had the powers at its discretion to choose who you could marry, how to spend your money, what language you spoke, and to remove Indigenous children from their families and place them in government-run institutions. The irony was that the Aborigines Protection Board was set up to protect Aboriginal people. But in reality, it destroyed so many lives. The repercussions of this violence are still felt today through generational trauma.
Hello. Hi, Irene.
Lovely to finally meet you.
Very nice
It's
to meet
been
you.
a while, hasn't it?
Yeah.
We've got a few things to talk about, I think.
We do.
Yeah.
So I'll just go around the corner and you can see where the Rainer Hoff's studio was.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really big now. It was a little smaller. It had sandstone walls.
Oh.
Pretty well mud floor. It was terrible. The floor was terrible. You know, in 1925, it was actually a technical college when he came.
Right.
But the art school was part of it. So he would have been coming in amongst all those students and things and pose. It would have been quite hard, actually, I think.
Yeah, and I guess with the whole three of them, it would never have normally been in this sort of situation before.
No, and we don't know of any Aboriginal students here either. So,
No.
you know, it's even coming into the site would have been quite
Yeah,
amazing.
yes, it would have been.
So this little section here is actually mainly about Rainer Hoff, actually. And then through here is where we have our main collection. So I've just put out some photographs and some drawings to show you.
Wow.
And these are part of our archive now.
So why do you think Rainer was commissioned to do the statue of Nanny Nellie?
Because he was the best sculptor in Australia at the time. But his major work in Sydney, of course, is the Anzac Memorial in Hyde Park, which has got 32 sculptures on it and 2 huge, long bronze reliefs. So
Beautiful. He did some beautiful work. The statues, Nanny Nellie, Uncle Jimmy and Uncle Harold, they look real lifelike.
Yes.
And just standing in front of them,
Yes.
they're looking
Well,
at their
it's because
body.
he was so adept at anatomy. He really understood how the weight of the body was held by the bones and the muscles and so on. And so that was a great commission for him when he
Yes.
first came here. But I think Auntie Nellie is the best. Like, she's so beautifully done. You can see her rib cage and her.
You can.
It's just it feels like she's the real person. Like, you can really, really feel it.
Because I heard Nanny Nellie used to come back and sit with him. He would come out and have tea with her.
Yes.
I thought that was very endearing.
Yes, it's really, really great that they had that relationship. In that time, it must have been really something.
When I read that, that Nanny Nellie would come here, it changed my whole perspective about how I looked at what was happening. I was quite angry with the whole process of what was going on with her. I didn't like the fact that, you know, she was made to be naked and, you know, I didn't like that. I didn't like that idea at all.
Yeah.
But when I read that, I went, wow, he really took time.
He did
and
a great
Raina
job.
treated her like any normal person would have been treated.
Yeah, he was. It was one of his. He was renowned for being very respectful to the models, and when he was teaching life modelling, the art school would pay for that. But when he was working in his studio, he paid him. Yeah,
I don't think we knew
He didn't believe
that.
in people working for nothing. So he really.
He was a man before his time, wasn't he?
I think so. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he was quite renowned for that. Yeah.
Albert Kennedy, Nanny Nellie's first husband, died after she left Warangesda. They had a baby, but there's no record of what happened to that child. Then, in 1911, at Tilba Tilba, Nanny Nellie married James Walker, my great-grandfather. They lived and worked here together. They had children here. I believe she was trying to make a family, to have happiness and stability, something she'd been trying to do her whole life. Beautiful. Wow. Fresh water. Then there's the ocean. This is just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Why wouldn't you want to be here? I would want to be here. So the house would have been over there somewhere, probably. It almost looks like this rolling hill here in the background. They spent a long time here. A long time here. Because Nanny Nellie was 47 years old when she had Nanny Kempsey. So, you know, that's, you're not young at 47. So, yeah. She was obviously still fertile at that age. Maybe she thought she would never have another child again, but she did. Yeah. It was a good thing. Very good thing. We wouldn't be here if that never happened. I think Nanny Nellie's life was a little bit like a roller coaster. Australia was changing. There were settlers moving into the land. So their life was changing forever. And then she got sick. She had TB.
Irene, what are you thinking the family and yourself would like her clothed in?
Here we have one photograph of around that era, and the women were all dressed.
Long skirts and the pin-tuck blouses and
Yes.
in the cottons and the...
Yes, everything would have been cotton.
Yeah,
Is that
it would have
right?
all been natural fibres,
Okay.
definitely. Look very prim and proper,
Yes, yeah.
like they're wearing their Sunday best.
They do. Yes, absolutely.
And people didn't show their legs in those
No,
days.
they never showed their legs.
Or, in fact, rarely ankles too.
Yes.
So, because it was all about modesty.
Yeah, it's completely opposite to how Nanny was put on exhibition, you know, and portrayed. This is the way that I would like her to, you know, be dressed now in the
Portrayed,
museum.
yeah.
That's right. But I know, traditionally, Aboriginal women never wore clothes before colonisation. They censored Aboriginal people with clothing.
That whole early 1900s and dressing to civilise the native.
But Nanny Nellie never grew up back then. She grew up in a
Fairly
different era.
modern history, really.
So that's why clothing is very important.
Nan Nellie is an individual, so we're going to give her back her identity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. To who she really, really was in her time. Nanny Kempsey was around 5 years old when she came here to La Perouse with her mother, Nanny Nellie. La Perouse was a mission set up on the outskirts of Sydney, about 15 kilometres from the city centre. Another example of Aboriginal people being placed out of sight, out of mind. Outsiders in their own countries. Nanny Nellie's illness was getting worse, but she had the support of her husband's family, whom she lived with. She must have felt a duty to be self-sufficient for herself and her daughter, because she used to go into the domain by tram to get food rations from the Aborigines Protection Board. Nanny Kempsey remembers one of those trips with her mother.
This day we went there to the Aboriginal Protection Board to get a voucher for food. I was only small, 5 or 6, I think. My mother said, I've got to go downstairs, waiting at the top in the office. So I'm playing away in the big office. I'm waiting and waiting. I'm waiting for the mother to come. She never come back. I tried to drive down the road. They all grabbed me and held me back. They had to lock me in the office. I was frightened of me going away, running away. Anyway, I lay down on the floor and I was crying and cried. And they sent me to Cootamundra, home for girls.
Yeah. This is where it all happened, here. This is where everything turned around for both of them. It's very sad. I can imagine this in my own mind, what was going on. She would have been screaming for her mother, you know, mummy, 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 you know, come back. And they were just grabbed her and locked her in the office. That's what Nanny Kempsey said, they locked her in the office. And she laid on the floor and she cried until it was dark. And then they took her to a strange person's house. Then the next day took her to Cootamundra, girls' home, where she stayed. And her life was taken away from her family. Everybody that she knew in her whole life happened that very afternoon from one incident of wanting to feed your child.
You okay, Mum?
Nanny Nellie suffered tuberculosis for over 10 years. Bloody coughs, debilitating pain in the lungs, and extreme fatigue. Because tuberculosis was so contagious, they placed them here at Waterfall Sanitarium. Her last days would have been on one of these beds. I know that she was suffering. I know that it would have been very hard for her. And I think it was horrible. I think she died a horrible death here in this place. I honestly do. They were put into mass graves. You know, just realising that my grandmother was shoved into a mass grave with hundreds of other people, I've just, you know, it's just horrifying. I just find that horrifying. There's no rest because there's no way of us digging her up and taking her back home with us. We can't do that now. How would we find her? It's impossible. Must have been very sad for Nanny Kempsey to come and see her mother here and watch her mother die. I think of that a lot. Nanny Kempsey coming here and nursing her mother to her death. Must have been horrific for her to go through all that experience, you know, and then finally see your mother again and your mother's dying. It's too much. I'm feeling pretty excited about tonight. My Uncle Richard will be there. And Uncle Richard is Nanny Nellie's grandson, Nanny Kempsey's son. Uncle Richard is my elder, and I'm proud and honoured for him to be there so he can see his grandmother. It's just wonderful. Tonight's very important because it's rewriting history. It's putting narratives back. It's the realisation of past and present all coming together and making it as one. That's what it's all about.
Thank you for joining us tonight for this special night of First Nations self-determination. My name is Laura McBride and I'm a Wild woman and Director First Nations here at the Australian Museum. Tonight we gather to celebrate the story of Ngurrgo woman Nanny Nellie Bunjil Walker. You will see Nanny Nellie on display for the first time in decades. This time, displayed in a way that celebrates her identity and interpreted by her own family.
There she is now. I know. Yep. It's so special. Here she is. How beautiful is that? Hey?
It's beautiful, Mum. It's beautiful. It's crazy seeing all the ladies together again.
No. Yeah. Tell me what you think, Uncle Richard.
All the same. Family there.
Yep. She's surrounded by family. Yeah. I think that's what she always wanted to be, surrounded by family. How good is that?
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done. Well done.
Isn't she beautiful? Isn't she beautiful?
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you so much, Lord. Thank you so much.
Anna's beautiful. Absolutely.
Amazing, wasn't it?
Some things I don't think we'll ever find out. But the things that we have found out, she led a full life. She had a full journey to her life. She was a powerful woman. She bared so many different troubles, but she still got through them. I think that comes through with us, with the women in my family, with her daughter, you know, Nanny Kempsey, with Auntie May, with Auntie Helen, with my mother, and through me. It shows this power that we have to keep going on regardless. That's what she's given. That's what she's given to me. Absolutely. Thank her for that. It was all taken away, but we can give it back. We're the ones left to give it back. I know who I am. I know who I am. And that's everything.
I've walked the walk of my family. I'm going to be telling those stories to my children. Nothing is lost then. Everything is found. Sure, there's still a lot to find, but for now, I have a better understanding. Understanding is healing. I think so. I think so.